Pleasant day to everyone, especially the proposition and opposition side and to all the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Liw-agan and welcome to our virtual Philippine History Debate 2022. This will be a formal debate about the controversy of the cry of rebellion. There are different questions, different biases where this event happened, so we are here today to discuss where the cry of rebellion really happened. Is it in Balintawak or is it in Pugadlawin? Each side will be given a minimum of 5 minutes to defend their side for us to have knowledge about this topic. I'm glad to introduce to you our speaker on each side. The proposition side who says that the cry of rebellion happened in Pugadlawin is Miss Sheila Ann Magaling. And the opposition side who says that the cry of rebellion happened in Balintawak is Ms. Mariel Mangubat. Before we formally start this debate, I would like to first introduce you our adjudicator for today's competition. We have with us Ms. Risa Lagi, who will judge the both sides today on the basis of their arguments and their way of delivering those arguments. So to formally start this debate, here is Ms. Sheila Ann Magalim from the proposition side to present their main argument.
Hi, I am Sheila Ann Magalim, a first speaker in the House of Pugadlawin. I am presenting to you the first argument in which the Pugadlawin is the place where the first cry happened. I strongly state that Pugadlawin is where the first cry happened. The cry generally signifies as the first call of rebellion, led by Andres Bonifacio. Each mark of beginning of the Philippines Revolution or seeking of independence for the Philippines from Spanish, and this is a big issue in debate. When and where did the first cry of revolt take place? And this is Pugadlawin. Pugadlawin is located in Bahay Turo, in the place well known that this place of tearing of cedulas symbolized fight against Spanish. The event divided into three, which is the decision-making, tearing of cedulas, and the first battle, this decision of Katipuneros fights again, Spanish and tearing of cedulas in the yard of Juan Ramos, son of Melchora Aquino, where over 1,000 members of Katipuneros meet carried out considered goal to be on discussion on August 23, 1896. In the first encounter of Spanish and Castilla, it is true that it is happened in Balintawak, but what we are talking about is where and when the cry and where the cedulas was turned. The first cry will be included in the first discussion and tearing of cedulas and not the first battle. So Balintawak is not the place of first cry since 1963. President Diosdado Macapagal issues Proclamation number 149. It has been widely accepted that the cry of revolution took place in Pugadlawin in August 23, 1996, a momentous event in Filipino history which is known for being the launching point of Philippines Revolution. In 1936, Payo Valenzuela, along with Pantas and Pachero, said that the first cry of revolution did not happen in Balintawak, where the monument is, but in the place of Pugadlawin. In 1940, a research team of foreigners of the Nation Historical Institute, which included Valenzuela, identified the location as part of Sitio Bantat, Caloocan City. In 1964, the NHI described this location as the House of Tantang Sora. The first cry of revolution was not happened in Balintawak, where it taking place, but in the locality which is known as Pugadlawin.
Thank you, Ms. Magalim, and let us hear the main argument of opposition side from Ms. Mariel Mangubat.
Good day everyone, I am Mariel Mangubat from the side of Balintawak, wherein I will state the fact and share evidence that the cry of rebellion really happened in Balintawak. I will be discussing about the primary source to support that the cry of rebellion held at Balintawak. The first primary source is the eyewitness of Guillermo Masangkay. Guillermo Masangkay is also known as a friend and a personal advisor of Andres Bonifacio, as his approval about the change of Katipunan as the association for the revolution. Therefore, Masangkay's account of the cry of rebellion was definitely credible. According to him, on August 26, 1896, a big meeting was held in Balintawak at the house of Polonio Samson in the barrio of Caloocan. Among those who attended, he remembered were Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Rosario, Tomas Remedio, Pantas, Teodoro Plata, Pio Valenzuela, Enrico Pacheco, and Francisco were all the leaders of Katipunan and composed the board of directors of the organization. Delegates from Bulacan, Cabanatuan, Cavite, and Morong were also present. At about 9 o'clock in the morning of August 26, the meeting was opened with Andres Bonifacio preceding Emilio Jacinto as secretary. The purpose was to discuss when the uprising was to take place. Teodoro Plata, Pantas, and Pio Valenzuela all supposed to start the revolution too early. Andres Bonifacio, sensing that he would lose the discussion, then he left the session hall and talked to the people who are waiting outside for the result of the meeting of the leaders. He told the people that the leaders were arguing against starting the revolution early, and appealed to them in a fiery speech in which he said, "You remember the fate of our countrymen who were shot in Bagumbayan. Should we return now to the towns? The Spaniard will only shoot us. Our organization has been discovered and we are all marked men. If we don't start the uprising, the Spaniard will get us anyway. What then do you say? Revolt." The people shouted as one. Then Andres Bonifacio asked the people to give a pledge that they were to revolt. He told them that the sign of slavery of the Filipinos were the cedulas tax charged its citizen. If it's true that you are ready to revolt, I want to see you destroy your cedulas. It will be the sign that all of us declared our severance from the Spaniard. The cry of Balintawak occurred in August 26, 1896, the cry defined as the turning point when the Filipino finally refused Spanish colonial dominion over Philippine islands with their tears in their eyes. The people as one man pulled out their cedulas and tore them into pieces. It was the beginning of the formal declaration of the separation from Spanish rule. Long live the Philippine Republic, shouted and cry of the people. Now, it is very clear that Masangkay is focused on the event because he explained it all in detail. So I strongly agree that the cry of rebellion happened in Balintawak.
Thank you, Ms. Mangubat. Here is the continuation of the statement from the proposition side to support her arguments earlier.
Hello again. Allow me to continue and add a variety of information to support my statement earlier. From 1928 to 1940, Valenzuela maintained that the cry happened on August 24 at the house of Tandang Sora in Pugadlawin, which he now situated near Pasong Tamo Road. A photograph of Bonifacio, Widow Gregoria de Jesus, and Katipunan. Members Valenzuela, Brisillo, Brigido, Pantas, Alfonso, and Cipriano Pachero, published in La Opinion in 1928 and 1930, was captioned both times as having been taken at the site of the cry on August 24, 1896 at the house of Tandang Sora. In 1935, Valenzuela, Pantas, and Pachero proclaimed na hindi sa Balintawak nangyari ang unang sigaw ng paghihimagsik na kinalalagian ngayon ng Bantayag kung di sa puok sa kilala sa tawag na Pugadlawin. Valenzuela Memoirs in 1964 and 1978 affirmed that the cry took place on August 23 at the house of Juan Ramos at Pugadlawin. The NHI was obviously influenced by Valenzuela's memoirs. In 1963, upon the NHI endorsement, President Diosdado Macapagal ordered that the cry be celebrated on August 23 and that Pugadlawin, where they proceed upon leaving Samson's place in the afternoon of the 22, that more than 1,000 members of Katipunan met in the yard of Juan A. Ramos, son of Melchora Aquino. Considerable discussion arose whether the revolt against the Spanish government should be started on the 29th. Only one man protested, but he was overruled in his stand. Bonifacio then announced the decision and shouted, "Brother, it was agreed to continue with the plan of revolt. My brothers, do you swear for repudiate the government that oppress us?" And the rebels shouting as one man replied, "Yes, sir." That being the case, Bonifacio added, "Bring out your cedulas and tear them to pieces to symbolize our determination to take arms." Amidst of ceremony, the rebels, tears-stained eyes, shouted, "Long live the Philippines! Long live the Katipunan!" So all the testimony of Payo Valenzuela, along with the other, is enough to authenticate and verify the controversy based on the evidence that we have searched. We former stand that the first cry rebellion was happened in Pugadlawin due to its credibility of the source and its consistency with other sources.
Thank you, Ms. Magalim. Here is also the continuation of the statement from the opposition side to support her statement earlier.
Hello again. Allow me to continue and add variety of information to support my statement earlier. First of all, there is no Pugadlawin in the maps or literature of the period. In 1897, the Spanish historian Sastron mentioned Caloocan, Balintawak, Banlat, and Pasong Tamo. The mentioned name in some revolutionary sources and interpretation, Daang Malalim. Kangkong and Pugadlawin were not identified as barrios. Even detailed Spanish and American maps mark only Caloocan and Balintawak. Government maps issued in 1956, 1987, and 1990 confirm the existence of the barangays Bahay Toro but do not define their boundaries. Pugadlawin is not on any of these maps. Writer and linguist Sofronio Calderon, conducting research in the late 1920s on the toponym Pugadlawin, went through the municipal records and the census of 1903 and 1918, could not find the name, and concluded that isang pagkakamali ang sabihing mayroong Pugadlawin sa Caloocan. What can we conclude all from this? First, the Pugadlawin was never officially recognized as a place name on any Philippine map before Second World War. Second, Pugadlawin appeared in historiography only from 1928 or some 32 years after the event took place. And third, the revolution was only traditionally held to have occurred in the area of Balintawak, which was distinct from Caloocan and Diliman. Therefore, while the toponym Pugadlawin is more romantic, it is more accurate to stick to the original, Cry of Balintawak. We believe in Guillermo Masangkay accounts because his version of first cry was accepted by the preliminary year of the American government, and also using primary and secondary sources. We identify that Kangkong, Pugadlawin, Bahay Toro, which were all in Balintawak. Next is because the place Pugadlawin only existed in 1935, after the rebellion happened in 1896, and our primary source is the inconsistency of the account of Pio Valenzuela. In more conclusion, it is more accountable to stick to the original, which was the cry of Balintawak, as the Balintawak was a traditional place where revolution took place.
Thank you, Ms. Mangubat, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome for the last time for today's debate between the cry of Balintawak and the cry of Pugadlawin as the momentum of the first cry happened. The debate proper is now over. Thank you all very much for your great arguments. Let us now hear what the judicator thinks about the performance of the both sides who defend cry of Pugadlawin and the cry of Balintawak. Judge Rizalagi, please give us some comments on the both side performance and the result of today's debate.
Since both sides have already presented their argument, let me please give my remarks for each side. For the Pugadlawin side, she have given the propositions and defended of the motion, but their argument is not enough, while the opposition side, which is the Balintawak side, refuted and negated this motion. As for this session, the Pugadlawin side have presented their propositions and testimonies from eyewitnesses that are directly involved in the said event. You stood your reasons why should it be the cry of Pugadlawin, while the opposition side have presented and provided enough of evidences about the motion and also presented enough sources. Therefore, the winner of this debate is the cry of Balintawak side.
Slavery, fear, and death. These were the cruelty that sparked the heart of every Filipino. Thus, the historic cry of Balintawak was born. The Spaniards discovered the Katipunan, a secret organization that sought freedom from Spanish rule, on August 19, 1896. Bonifacio, alongside with his fellow Katipuneros, fled to Balintawak, where they planned the revolution against Spanish rule here in the Philippines. On August 24, 1896, Bonifacio rallied the Katipuneros for an emergency meeting. Armed poorly with balas, bamboo spears, peltics, and few old Remington rifles, the meeting was off to a good start. This episode in the revolution would later be referred to as the Cry of Balintawak, alternatively referred to as the Cry of Pugadlawin. Accordingly, this was when Filipinos the revolution and tore their cedullas or tax receipts, which was the sign of Spaniards' slavery. Headed by Andres Bonifacio, he asked all the members of the Katipunan if they would willingly fight against these colonizers who gave so much suffering to them, and everyone agreed. To show the first step of the revolution, they tore their tax receipts into pieces as a sign of their defiance and determination to fight against Spain. Determined to be freed from Spain's invasion, the people who were present on such time immediately tore their tax receipts. Pio Valenzuela made several versions of the cry of Pugadlawin, as the only eyewitness of such an event due to the fact that he was even there as a member of Katipunan is not enough to authenticate this controversial issue in the history. In September 1896, Valenzuela stated before the court that the Katipunan meetings took place on Sunday to Tuesday, or August 23 to 25 at Balintawak. However, in 1911, he started to claim that the Katipunan began meeting on August 22, while the cry took place at Apollonia Sampson's in Balintawak on August 23. In addition to that, from 1928 to 1940, Valenzuela maintained the idea that the cry happened on August 24 at the house of Tandang Sora, Melchora Aquino in Pugadlawin. Pio Valenzuela and Guillermo Masangkay were both in the same statement with regards to the cry of Balintawak, but has contrasting ideas in terms of the location. While Valenzuela points to the house of Juan Ramos, Masangkay refers to Apollonia Sampson's in Kangkang in Balintawak. Balintawak is a site where revolutionary events took place. On that site as well, government maps were issued at the years of 1956, 1987, and 1990, and within these said years, it is confirmed that Pugadlawin was not in any of these maps. Pugadlawin was never officially a place named in any Philippine maps until the Second World War. In conclusion, it is more accurate to stick to the original, which was the cry of Balintawak, as the Balintawak was a traditional place where revolution took place.